Hi friend, David here from Learn Stage Lighting, and in this video we want to talk all about mixing video lighting as well with stage lighting, and just give you an example right here, right in my studio, my office, where we can balance the video and the lighting together. So I'm here in Onyx. I'm not sure if we're really going to show you that in the video or not, because the point here is not what console we're using, but rather how we're balancing video and lighting together. So when we talk about running a hybrid event and having some element of video and non-video lighting, that means for your front light, you may have any number of things going on. Here, I've got a softbox in front of me. That's about a 2 foot by 2 foot softbox, and it's very close. So it's about the equivalent to if it were like 15 feet away, being like a 4 foot softbox or so, okay? And in this case, this fixture in front of me is not dimmable. So I always like to start when I'm lighting for video with my front wash, and that's what we've done here. Okay, so we take our front wash, we light it up, we get it to the light level that we feel comfortable with. Now, where is that? Well, if you're purely recording for video, that light level can flat out be anywhere that the people being recorded are comfortable and the camera's able to expose for. If you're in a live setting, then I always like to go to the back of the room, see what looks natural, see what's bright enough, but not over bright. By the time you make it appear too bright to the audience, the people on stage are like, their eyes are on fire, you know, and you don't want to do that. So I set that to a reasonable light level. I like how it looks on my stage. And this is the exact process, even though I'm here in my office, that I go through when I'm lighting a show where there's cameras, okay? So we got our front light, and we're going to expose the camera manually. So I've got manual exposure set on the camera, and I have white balanced as well to the color temperature of this source. Now let's start to look at other parts of light that we're going to work with, okay? So I've got a backlight right here. You can see it on me, okay? If I bring that guy up to full in white, we see a couple things. One, look at my head. Look at the outline around my hair. Okay, it's pinkish. So if I go completely full on this guy, like highlight on my console, I bring up all the colors, it's a little pinkish. So I'm going to go ahead for my white, for my wash of light here, and I'm going to subtract some red. Yeah. And then this is where you can really play with it. You can make it the same color temperature. You can try to warm it up a little. There are options there. Okay, so I'm going to take this now, and I'm going to keep this, and then I'm just going to bring the intensity of this, and I'm going to ride it during my show. So right now, I'm on the stage. For me, you know, this feels like a pretty decent level of backlight. I'm looking at my camera. It looks good, okay? But backlight is one of those things you got to ride as people come on and off the stage. Different colors in clothes, different skin tones, all make people, compared to how close they are to the background, pop in more or less comparatively, okay? And so we want to make sure we can see the people, but sometimes, you know, you're going to get somebody right, and boom, you know, they're going to look like they're glowing like this, especially if they have hair that has some gaps in it that's, you know, bigger hair than I've got. I don't have very big hair. And on the contrary, if they're dark-skinned and they have a dark background, it might take a little more backlight to get that person to pop, okay? To get that little line that we've got going on here that gives you that separation. Because if I shut it off, you see, okay, now in areas where my tones of my shirt or my skin are similar to the backdrop, it blends in. And that's why backlight's so important. That's why we sneak it back up. And I like to keep it on a fader during my show. So we balance that out. Next, let's go ahead and look at our set lighting. If I highlight this mover, hope it goes out of view. If I were to go ahead and pull the color out of this light, and then I go ahead and move it just a little bit, gently. Oh, it's at its limit because it's actually sitting on a floor base up high, which is not really the best way to hang it. You can see right here, it's a little bit blown out on the camera. And also, when I look at it, either in real life or the camera, and I look at my presenter, it's a little bit bright. So again, when I'm optimizing for that live stream or for that hybrid event, I want to make sure that that balance looks great. So if I'm going to use it in white, I'm going to need to bring down the intensity. So let's do that. And now the focus is back on the presenter. It's more subtle in the backdrop, okay? So if I bring that back up, maybe I do a color instead, right? And each color, this is just a moving spot fixture. It's a Gamma TX4, and it doesn't have color mixing. So each color has a different brightness level. And so you can adjust the brightness based on the color, okay? Next, I'm looking at the exposure of these RGBW bars behind me. Okay, again, we'll bring that down. We'll make it pop just a little bit more. All right. And so you can start to see behind me, even just in this quick example, as I pop up my notes here, this quick example, you know, when you've got video lighting and stage lighting to mix together, at the end of the day, it's all still lighting, right? It's all still lights on a stage. And what we need to do, though, is think about the camera, okay? So we get that front wash, we get it nice and even from edge to edge of stage, okay? We keep the same brightness level everywhere that someone's going to stand so that when we're in manual exposure in our camera, anyone who's presenting is lit the same brightness, okay? Because if somebody goes in and they start shading, okay, because that's what you've got to do if the light level changes. Look what happens. You see that? Yuck. So when you see shading, and you see it on live events sometimes, and sometimes it's inevitable, right? If somebody starts to go backwards, you see there, I start coming out of the light, and I would have to shade that. But when you do shade, you notice you start to change the exposure. Of course, it's smoother on video cameras. You see there that the background starts to blow out. So even if I was staying in good exposure, the background's going to blow out. Okay. And so the biggest keys really are just controlling all those levels. And sometimes, you know, when you're doing this, it becomes a decision point where you're looking at your video monitor and you're looking at the stage and you say, I don't like this. And you have to decide, is the stage more important to get looking right for the people in the room perfect? Or is what's on the video monitor for the recording or live stream more important? And that just depends on the show and what the goals are, where most of the audience is, and what ultimately whoever's brought you there to do that show or event wants, right, to optimize for. And when you take these simple tips, you can really do some great stuff. And so what I'm going to do in our next video, next week, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about lighting the audience because, well, you know, this was great for talking about the stage and the backdrop, and that's all cool. I've got some great tips to help you light the audience a little bit better so you can really make them pop, make them show up, look like one of those fancy game shows, but maybe not on quite that budget. So if you like this video, grab my free guide to begin with lighting over at learnstagelighting.com, and we will see you in our next video. Thanks.